New scrutiny in the upcoming murder trial of New York real estate heir Robert Durst. Court documents say editors on the HBO documentary The Jinx spliced two different Durst statements, which ended up sounding like a confession. Now, his attorneys are trying to get that evidence thrown out. Dan Schorr is a former assistant district attorney and a former prosecutor. Thank you so much for talking to us. You know, in the mumbles of a comment he made on a hot microphone, you hear him during a bathroom break, which some have interpreted as a confession to multiple murders, sound like this. We're going to air what actually aired on HBO, then we're going to tell you what really was said. Go play it.
What the hell did I do? Kill them all, of course.
Yeah, that's not exactly what he said, because now we're learning, and this is huge, that the video was edited, was spliced. Here's what Robert Durst actually told HBO lawmakers, and then I want you filmmakers to react. Even if that sound was spliced, you know, it's actually quite shocking. I don't know what you expected to get. I don't know what's in the house. Oh, I want this. Killed them all, of course. I want to do something new. There's nothing new about that. He was right. I was wrong. The burping. I'm having difficulty with the question, what the hell did I do? That is nothing like what actually aired on the documentary. I understand why his defense lawyers would say, look, this is not evidence. You cannot admit this. But the question, and the judge has admitted, this was not exactly what was said in the documentary. Does it get thrown out?
Right. Well, the key thing is the prosecutors always offered the transcript of the actual conversation. The transcript that was what people heard on the HBO documentary is never actually offered into evidence by the prosecutor. So they have followed actually what he said. So the jury won't hear the way it aired. But the problem is, what about jurors who might have heard that while watching it? Will they be influenced by a possibly misleading order of those statements? But
even if the video was sliced, okay, how difficult is it going to be for this to get thrown out, as his lawyers are urging now?
They're not going to get the audio thrown out, because it's not taken illegally, and the prosecutors can present it in the correct order, so it's not misleading to the jury.
Okay.
What they want to argue is the jury pool might be misled because a lot of people heard it on HBO and already have some kind of conviction about whether he should be convicted.
Well, that's the problem, because then is the jury biased? Because if the jury originally heard the sound like many viewers did when they watched the documentary, they're going to say, he confessed, he's guilty. Now, no, it wasn't a confession. It was his words were mixed in the splicing and the editing of the show.
Right, so there's two parts to that. One is during jury selection. The defense lawyer will have to do a good job of rooting out those jurors who already saw this and have a conclusion based on it. But the other part of it is, at trial, the audio will come in, and you still, that statement he makes, kill them all, of course, it's still ambiguous. Is it a confession? It's not following that initial question that seems like he's answering the question.
How do they defend that? How do they defend that statement right there, even if it wasn't said with all the other words, okay? Kill them all, of course. Why would you say that?
Right, exactly. So the prosecution can still argue that is a confession. The defense will say it's not. And this case can't ever rise or fall just on that statement. There has to be other evidence, such as allegedly handwriting by him and a misspelling of a woman's name that's consistent with a letter connected to the woman who died, putting him in California when he was living in Texas during the murder. So there always had to be other evidence. This is obviously an important part because it might be a confession, but whether the filmmakers were right or not, that's going to be different than law enforcement, which always has presented the recording in a logical way that actually was the way it was said.
What seems odd is that the fact that he went forward and did this documentary, he knew that he had a microphone on, and his legal team had to know, obviously, that he was mic'd during this thing. Why would they not view this documentary before it actually aired to make sure that their client wasn't being incriminated in somehow, or that his words weren't taken out of context?
Well, for those who have followed the Robert Durst story, there's been a lot of bizarre twists for decades now. So his lawyers, I read, and the accounts publicly have been that they said, do not do this interview. He wanted to do it anyway. He's led a very strange life. But those comments
were made in the bathroom. I mean, he wasn't even being interviewed.
And even stranger, the filmmaker said they weren't even aware of those audio comments because they weren't tied to video for a couple of years. So when they were talking to law enforcement about what they found, they're saying they didn't even know about these, and they found it later. So there are so many twists and turns to this case.
All right, his trial begins in September, so we'll continue to watch. Dan Schorr, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.